Hello, good evening. So guys, we made it to Wednesday. We're halfway through the week, right? At least it's not Monday, because Mondays, they tend to be a little bit more painful because it's the beginning of the week. So with it being Wednesday, we're halfway through the week. As far as a random from me, I think some of my it's not really excitement. I don't know what you would call it. I've never been able to keep one of those little Tamagotchis alive. You know, that toy from the 90s. So I'm currently trying to keep two of them alive, and one of which has a character that looks like a baby with fairy wings, and like for 15 minutes, even after you address the needs, it will go up to the screen and knock, 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 move around the screen and then go back and knock. And we had dinner and Maddie's like, can you shut that up? And Tim's on here, so he would be able to even back me up on this. The Tamagotchi has a life of its own. So yeah, Maddie doesn't care for it. So I thought that was kind of humorous. I thought I would share it. Isn't that something, a toy from the 90s? It's like, it's hung around this long, but the one I have that's making all the racket, I guess it's similar to how Furbies are cool looking, but they can be kind of aggravating too, especially when you put them in your dresser drawer, or like put them in a dark room to get them to shut up, and they would still talk even in the middle of the night. So that was kind of creepy when you think about it. That's not it's kind of like Chucky vibes. That's not a cool way to wake up, right? So anyhow, despite my humor, I know that I've posted in our group, so I will be at the Grand Slam tomorrow night from 5 until 9 p.m. to do readings. So if you don't feel like cooking supper, their food is really good. And they did recently renovate the place, so it looks real good. And it'll be good, I think. Even if you just stick your head in to say hello to me, that would be really cool. But I would love to give you a reading, though. That's my jam, is reading in person with people, And other than that, of course, I'm going to keep posting our tarot teaching moments on YouTube for your reference. And then I will be posting on my website a new spread, which, it's going to be called the Crow Lady Spread. And it's really cool. It's got a lot of different insights that can be derived from it. So feel free to check out my website for that. I'll put a post up when it's officially on my site. But I think it'd be cool. And but without going on about that, to stay on task. So last night we discussed the Justice card. Okay. And in a nutshell, on our Fool's journey, this was the time in the journey where, the Fool had to answer for those decisions, whether they be positive or negative. So I think tonight, as we progress into the 12th card of the Major Arcana, our seeker is left feeling a bit not as confident in themselves, despite all of this growth. I mean, they're more than halfway through this journey, the Fool is. But now it's like, gosh, he's thinking, even though I've grown so much, especially if there's a negative outcome related to something, now he's like doubtful, right? So, and of course, when I say he, it's very neutral. And I say this in case somebody just tunes in. It can be a he or a she, because the tarot, you have to remember, it represents our life journey, and it is not linear. So we can go forward, we can go backward. It's not just a straight trajectory. So now we're about to review the 12th card from the Rider-Waite-Smith, and this is the Hanged Man. And so we are seeing what appears to be a young man, and he's secured to, where they used to hang people. I think I wrote the name down on my thing here. The gallows. Now I'm having to think about, unfortunately, the witches in Salem and how they used to be hung, but we're not going to cover that. But so this would be referenced like a wooden gallows. And he's only secured here by that left foot, okay? And then his right, or actually his left, see it's flipped because I'm looking at the phone. So his left is the one that is crossed. This is actually his left, and this is his right leg. And so he's not struggling. His arms are behind his back. And if you look at his face, he is directly looking forward. It does not appear like he's struggling. It's not like we're seeing the gentleman bend at the waist trying to undo himself from this hanging position. He seems to be pretty balanced as he's hanging out there, and he's got this yellow aura around him. And the sky in the background is not dark or gray or anything like that. For this card, it is just simply white. So I think with this, so after going through the Justice card, and we talked about what that could have done to our seeker, he is left questioning himself. And so what he's done is he's trying to just take a time out, pause. Hi, Christy. Good evening. He's trying to take a time out to pause and reflect and see the world from a different perspective. And then as he's hanging out there thinking about these various things, these various dilemmas and experiences and so forth that he's had, he will determine what serves him well so far in his journey and further develop on that. However, what has not served him well in his journey, he's going to determine that, hey, he's going to let that go. And he's also going to think, so he's not innocent and naive anymore, like when he was at 0 when we started out. So now we're to the 12th card of the Major Arcana. He's grown a lot as a person. So now he's thinking about the consequences of his actions, and maybe so far on the journey, not all of them were very good. And so with this, we'll talk about some of the symbols here. So this is the Roman numeral for number 12. Okay. And then with the rope, he's not fighting against it. Again, this is something he's willingly doing. He's willingly letting go for a time. He's not forcing the situation or forcing any actions. He is literally pausing to reflect. And when you think about it, if something is secured by rope, and say if someone tries to get out of that rope is going to tighten up. So I think that even our fool realizes that, no, he's not going to be in this position forever because, the blood's going to rush to his head. However, he's taking that figurative time out, and quite literally in this card, to see things from upside down. Like think about children, for instance, because they think differently than us and they see the world differently. How many of them have you seen? They'll be on the couch, but they'll be hanging upside down from it because they want to see what the world looks like upside down. Well, that is what our seeker's doing. He feels like he must have missed something along the way, and he needs that insight and that solitude. And so these red tights stand for passion. So when you think of the color red, passion, power, those are his legs. So think about it. His legs generally take him places. So he's still in a very good place as far as the two legs that generally carry him. They're still strong enough to make this journey. The blue in his garment here stands for truth. So think about like your police officers, even that color is associated with nurses. Those are two that just like hit me off the top of my head. They are associated with good, truth. When you think of a blue sky, peace, calm. So I think, and the red, even if you think about what other words we can associate with red, red can also stand for anger. I know we mentioned passion. Also as a stop sign, think about it. Stop signs are red, which when you think about it is so appropriate, right? With this hangman who's literally stopping his journey, right? Now, he's sitting there and he's very passive because, again, he's not really engaged in anything going around, going on around him. And this yellow halo around his head stands for enlightenment. So he is gaining that knowledge prior to continuing his journey, because the realizations that our seeker will reach will change the path and very trajectory of his journey, which will be a bit painful because it's going to lead to some more growth and changes. But he's not going to stay the same seeker or fool that he was previously. He's evolving as people, we evolve. And then you see all these like green leaves hanging from the gallows. So that shows growth. There is growth occurring here. Even from one way of looking at it, if you're familiar at all with the principle of grounding, for example, even if you're not, think about how you feel if you're standing outside barefoot on the ground, on the grass, how the grass feels under your feet with the sun shining in your face. So it's like he's charging up. Think about a battery charging itself. He is renewing and charging himself up with the right kind of energy, because there's no way he's going to make it. He's not going to last the rest of the journey unless he takes this time to pause and reflect and abandon what does not serve him and keep what does. But see, that's what it looks like. If you look at it upside down, it's almost like he's a ballerina and he's tiptoeing. So he's supporting his weight on just his one foot. So I really like that if you look at it from that viewpoint. And so one thing I discovered in my reading, and I thought it was cool, and it was recently alluded to in The Last Kingdom on Netflix, which you guys know I highly recommend. So Odin, okay, he ended up taking out one of his eyes, and I wrote down the name of the tree. So he hung himself from Yggdrasil, which is spelled YGG, D as in Delta, RAS as in Sam, IL, which is basically the world tree. And he did this for 9 days and 9 nights to gain wisdom of the universe. And so he wanted to gain insight from just beyond what he saw, from beyond the surface. So that's why he blinded himself in one eye so that he could pick up on higher powers, like a divinatory type thing, instead of just his eyes, because what we see can lie. So we can't just put all of our eggs in one basket based on what we see. We have to go like we have on our journey. You know, what the high priestess told, she taught us to trust our gut. The Hierophant taught us the rules, the hard, fast rules that we have to follow. When you think about some of these characters we've encountered, it all has to be taken into account. So I thought that was cool when I stumbled upon it. So I will go ahead. I'm going to reference my notes here to see if I forgot to go over anything. So additional meanings of this card. So we have wisdom, introspection. So again, he's thinking a trial. It's a sacrifice, surrender, and new perspective. Let's see here, the legs. So I looked up why his legs are crossed, because I didn't see anything alluding to how it's like a number 4. To me, that's what his legs look like. What I discovered is it's called a crossroads. So when you think of a road, like 2 roads that meet up to form a T, that's what his legs stand for. And that means a judgment must be made. And our seeker, at this point in his journey, he doesn't know if he's going to go left or right. He doesn't even know if he wants to go back. Like, right until he finds this new perspective, at this point, he's doubtful. He's not even sure he can finish the whole journey through the major arcana, which is our life journey. And other than that, we have covered everything else I noted down here, which is good. So now I'm going to move on to other cards. So just keep some of the symbology or whatnot in mind as we look at these. So here is a lady, and it's kind of reminiscent of what Pink does during her concerts, and I think Carrie Underwood recently did this too. So she's up above, okay, the water. Remember, water's emotions, okay? And she's got one hand that's secured around her foot. And think about it, our feet take us to where we need to go. And at this part of the journey, Fool's not going anywhere. They're pausing. So here, she's supporting herself. She's maintaining that equilibrium to where she doesn't just fall out of this sling. And then here, her fingertips are just kind of like just above the water to where she can still make contact with it. And I do not know what all these little symbols on the card mean, but they do look like runes. That's something I don't know how to interpret, although I think they're interesting. Yeah, so that's what those look like to me. And then it's like that butterfly effect. So for me, as those ripples go out, she's obtaining enlightenment again from that time of introspection. And she's kind of thinking about everything she's done and how it has changed the fabric of her journey. And then in the background, it's like a really pretty, like green blue, very calm and serene. And it doesn't look like she's stressed out or anything like that. If anything, she looks like she's really comfortable and that it would be a place of sanctuary and solitude. So again, even though we don't have all the symbols on this card, you can still just look at the picture and derive a lot of meaning from it. Now, you know, crows are tricksters and they're clever. If you watch YouTube videos of them, you'll see them doing all sorts of various behaviors. So this one, he is hanging upside down and he is not secured onto that little tree branch because I was looking really closely. As far as his feet go, one's up in the air and it looks like the other one, it's like hanging like on the little tree branch, but there's nothing securing that little foot. But to me, this has a playful tone to it. He just wants to see what it looks like hanging upside down, and all around him's just the beautiful flowers, the greenery, the blooms, the blue sky, that little bit of, looks like, I don't know, it might even be some water instead of the sky. At first, I think it's a bit of both the sky and the water. But it's just very tranquil looking and very playful. And it could even be he's trying to get to his meal. So maybe he's got to maneuver a certain way just to obtain his goal. So even though, again, we don't have all of the symbology, I think, you know, and of course from the name of the card, you can kind of derive that you know, this little creature is hanging out, and then kind of in your mind think, okay, when I'm hung up on something, that's a common saying, what is going on in my head? So that's another way of looking at the hangman. So this one kind of plays off that one really well. And so here it is. Okay, it looks to be like a little crow and then another little bird. But look at the landscape. So the ground and the house are up where the sky should be. Now, if we turn it the correct way, it looks like a normal picture. And it shows a path, which it depends on the direction, I suppose. We don't know if we're going home or leaving the home in the picture. The trail looks very expansive. We don't see an end point in sight. Often the horizon is very obscure. We don't even know what's waiting for us there. The tree by the house is very barren, so it's either the fall or the winter time. And the sky is clear, but then again, it gets very kind of grayish black and obscure the higher you go up. And the two birds could be at odds with each other because they're kind of facing each other, and one's got a little twig in its beak. So maybe they're having a disagreement of sorts. So to me, when I look at this card, this would be from the perspective of the one who's hanging, which this would be our hangman. So in this scenario, he would be hanging from a tree and he would be observing this interaction. So, based on one's beliefs, because I did tell you guys, I do believe in symbols and signs. This could be divinatory in nature, to where his creator is showing him something that he's just neutrally like observing and reflecting upon, to help him grow as a person and to gain insight and direction from. So that's, when I look at that card, it's really cool. That's where my mind goes. And then, of course, I always end it with one where it's like, what? Again, I sound like a broken record on this one. Always, when you're learning, get a deck based in Rider-Waite-Smith. And, again, this is why. Beautiful imagery with this deck, seriously. But look at such a departure from what we've been looking at. So this is a lady, and you cannot read her expression. And her eyes, they're looking toward us. And it's almost like really reminiscent of like an alien movie, or like something that snuck up on her. And like I don't know if it's a plant or some other like alien life form, put its arms around her, and it's like ensnaring her. And she's trapped because, see, here she's caught in this barbed wire, and you can tell she's trying to get out of it. But I don't think she's going to make it. And so when I see this card, it's just, I don't know. I don't see any similarities at all with the other hangmans. So for me personally, even though I love this deck, this would not be a favorite card of mine. And that's really common too. Usually with a deck, we have cards that we really love. Like I told you guys how I love the Hermit. And like tomorrow we'll be covering Death. Believe it or not, that's one of my other favorite cards. I love the Death card, which I'm going to go into why tomorrow. But, there's going to be some cards that don't make you feel good, that don't sit well with you. They just don't feel comfortable. So even though, like, for example, for me, I really like that deck. I wouldn't say I love it. I like it. But see, that card does nothing for me. Even though it does spur my narrative in my mind as far as, the alien or the plant trying to kill her in the picture. So I think that sums up our hangman. And so, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, so I'm going to be doing the readings tomorrow night from 5 to 9 at the Grand Slam. Of course, feel free to come see me. So what I'm going to do, because I really feel like it's something I've committed to doing and I enjoy doing, and I want us to keep advancing on our journey together, learning about tarot, because it's important. Even if nobody was to tune in when I do it, I'm going to go ahead and do the video, the go live for the Death card tomorrow. So you could just watch it whenever you want. Or again, hop on YouTube. It'll be right there too, to where you could just, whatever's easiest. And as always, I hope that you've got a deck. You don't have to wait to be gifted your first deck. That's a myth. I should probably do like a little video about the myths behind tarot. There's so many of them. Get you a deck based in Rider-Waite-Smith, and then every day you use that deck and intuitively look at it, and you can look at the guidebook for reference, and with time your skill set will grow tremendously. It's just, you got to have consistent effort. And of course, I am a friend and mentor, so feel free to shoot me any messages if you have a question about something, because I'm certainly here to help, and I've been in your shoes for people who are just starting off on learning tarot. I know how that feels to start off, and you want to know everything at the beginning and just hop onto those fun spreads. And I would say, why not? See how far you can go and have fun with it. But you won't grow and progress unless you make a steady effort. So just get a deck and start working with it, and you will get there. So that'll wrap us up for tonight, and I will talk to you guys later. And feel free to let me know how you're doing in the comments. Bye. Good night.